Today we're back with another tier list video for Low-Elo. Patch 12.9 is now live, which means more changes and more updates to those best and worst champions. Next patch in 12.10, they're changing a hell of a lot of stuff, so make sure you tune in next time as it's fair to say there's going to be a lot to talk about. Before we get started, we covered a video talking about all of the changes coming this patch in 12.9, so go back to our channel and check that out if you haven't already. Let's start off as always with the top lane, and in the god tier we have Garen, Mordekaiser, Shen, Wukong and Kayle. Yasuo and Yone moved down from the A tier to their B tier after falling off in both popularity and win rate over the last few weeks. Trundle also hasn't had as much success recently and would also suffer from this week's Hullbreaker nerfs too, so he moves down to the A tier. Mordekaiser has been dominating the top and jungle since his recent buffs, as he was already stomping a lot of games and now he's just even stronger. Mordekaiser just has so many strengths right now. He deals a ton of damage, he absorbs even more, and his forced 1v1s with his ultimate are an easy way to win games, even against the strongest of enemies. Mordekaiser is so difficult to play against when he gets fed, as he just walks into your team, kills everyone and takes a ridiculous amount of damage too. If you're after a solid flex pick for two roles rolled into one, you cannot go wrong with Mordekaiser. Wukong has been absolutely everywhere since his changes a few weeks back, and honestly he's just so much better, again in top and in the jungle. Wukong's always been strong in early duels, and of course he's fantastic in teamfights with his ultimate, but he doesn't just really have a weak part of his game at the moment. Wukong's built-in armor shred absolutely cuts through all types of opponents, and once you've got a few levels and items, your cooldowns are so low that it just feels so easy to win games on him. You get a kill or two early game, you snowball quickly, you have undeniable influence in the majority of fights, and what's not to like? If you're looking for a new tank, you should definitely give Ornn a go. He's got everything you want from that tanky pick. He's got CC, he's got damage, good trading power, solid lane control, and a fantastic ultimate that can engage fights from pretty far away. Ornn also brings that extra thing to think about with his passive. Buying and upgrading items for your team just makes you even more useful. Ornn is fantastic into such a huge variety of matchups. He's brilliant at setting up ganks, and he's just a great all-rounded top laner to go for. It also helps that he's pretty easy to play and just how impactful he is right now, boasting a very impressive win rate. Moving into the jungle now, and in the god tier we have Volibear, Nocturne, Wukong and Rammus. Olaf jumps up following his changes this patch and sits in the A tier for now, which is where we expect him to be at the moment. Taliyah is also in the tier list now in that B tier, as although she's likely to be strong, she definitely takes some practice. It is very difficult to predict and get these rework champions right though, so we'll reassess next week to be safe. Gragas and Dr. Mundo fall off into the C tier and Poppy drops down from the S to the A tier. So Olaf got some huge changes this patch. His Q now shreds armor, he has a shield on his W, and if you play it right he can use his ultimate indefinitely. Yes, some pretty crazy adjustments, and this means Olaf has a very new lease of life, so expect to see him in a ton more games this week. And be prepared to realise how strong he can be as well. We aren't quite sure just how OP Olaf is going to be, as it's been nerfed a fair bit since its initial release on the PvE, so for now we're popping him into that A tier. Olaf is all about early aggression and snowballing so much that he just sprints into backlines, destroying everyone in his path, and if he does get an early lead, it can be pretty terrifying if he knows what he's doing. Volibear remains in the god tier after basically dominating the jungle for the last few months. The big bad bear in the big blue house is having the time of his life at the moment, and there's just no stopping him anytime soon. Volibear has fantastic early ganks, jungle clears, he excels in early skirmishes and fights, and honestly, he just doesn't really have that many weaknesses to speak of, apart from getting outscaled if the game goes a bit too late. If Volibear gets a bit fed and gets experience and a few items, the damage he can deal and take at the same time is absolutely crazy. Warwick, similar to Volibear, doesn't really have too many weaknesses in the early game. He can fight absolutely everybody, from as early as level 3, and if he invades you, he's just going to heal off the camps, kill you, and take everything away from you in the process. Warwick just kills everybody in the early game and doesn't really take any damage as long as he has something to heal. He then snowballs like an absolute weapon and just goes around the map ulting, healing and killing everything in sight. He's probably the best early game fighter and duelist in the game in the jungle at the moment. And if you can play aggressive enough and really abuse this, you just win games so easily, so early that your enemies just surrender. The later the game goes on, the more CC, the more items, the more things people have to deal with you, and you are going to get outscaled, similar to Volibear. But as long as you can play aggressive enough in the early game and punish the map hard enough, you are just going to win super early on. Over to the mid lane now, and in the god tier the champions are Veigar, Diana, Fizz, Xerath and Anivia. Xerath shoots up to that top tier after some crazy success in low elo over the last few weeks, combined with those recent buffs. Kassadin, Echo and Zilean all move down a tier, and Tryndamere moves off screen into the C tier as he's just not a good mid lane pick in low elo anymore. Xerath is basically just the king of the artillery mages, and his long range damage and burst is winning him so many games in the current meta. You gotta be super careful picking this guy into high mobility mages or assassins like Ahri and Fizz, but if you do manage to get him in a less risky matchup that he outranges, you can have a ton of fun. You get into lane, you poke some more, and you come out on top, and then you just basically kill everybody. Xerath can roam around the map, sniping his enemies down and farming free kills and assists while scaling into an absolute weapon that can delete enemies from half the map away. If you can position yourself well enough to sit out of range and constantly bash out some serious damage, what a champion to go for this patch. Fizz has been doing really well for quite some time, and although he does get overshadowed by those other big assassins like Zed and Qiyana, there really is no one that can say that Fizz isn't a very solid choice at the moment. Fizz brings that true assassin playstyle to the mid lane but with AP instead of lethality, and he just wins in a hell of a lot of matchups. He's probably one of the best counter picks to go for to absolutely destroy certain lanes, as if you can dodge everything and all in them easily, you can easily just farm them when your ultimate is up. Don't forget about Fizz's roaming as well. It's so simple to just casually stroll up or down the river and pick up so many free kills. Overall, if you've got the playstyle to pull this off, Fizz is a great choice. Taliyah received some massive changes this patch. Her Q is now AoE, her W is bigger, her E stuns people that dash through it, and loads of other small quality of life changes and buffs that are going to make her so different as a champion to play. If you want to see a video covering all of the changes in depth, then head on over to our channel and check out our patch 12.9 preview. So Taliyah takes a lot of practice, and she's never really been as good in low elo, which is why we've popped her in the B tier. But if you can play her, she's pretty damn good, and with these changes we can expect to see her a lot more often. Taliyah has a pretty unique playstyle, offering consistent mid-range damage plus a decent chunk of burst with her WE combo. She now also offers that anti-mobility backline ability too with her E. Taliyah's ultimate allows her to roam and punish the map too, alongside her movement speed passive, which can seriously work wonders. If you can utilise everything that Taliyah offers, she's a brilliant pick, but just remember you'll need a lot of practice before hitting this champion's true potential. Moving on to the bottom lane now, and in the god tier we have Jhin, Vayne, Samira and Veigar. Tristana moves up to the S tier, and Kai'Sa also jumps up a tier into the A tier after a real boost in her more traditional AD carry playstyle and itemization. Cassiopeia and Seraphine move down to the B tier only due to low popularity, and Xayah follows them after falling off very hard with her recent Q nerfs. So Tristana's received a fair few minor buffs gradually over the course of this season, and it seems they are really starting to add up now. We're slowly getting back into the meta of aggressive AD carries paying off after the hyper carry hype has slowly died down a bit. Samira and Lucian are the obvious popular picks that come to mind, but Tristana is also doing very well at the moment and just brings so much damage to the table. Tristana has early game all-in threat with her mobility and crazy damage of her bombs, plus the resets which allow her to get in and out relatively risk-free, but she also scales exceptionally well too, which means you're never really going to fall off unless you're against a ton of super long-range champions. Tristana's low-risk, high-reward playstyle is very strong, and she's very simple to play too. Get level 2, press E, jump on their face and auto-attack them to death, and then jump again and then jump out. Profit. Kai'Sa's AP days seem to now be over, but the good Kai'Sa players are back having success again with the AD carry build instead. Kai'Sa is one of those champions that doesn't have the best early game in the world now, but if you manage to go even or even get ahead, you're just going to absolutely destroy everybody. The burst, the kiting, the sheer scaling damage that this champion offers is huge, and if you can pull it off, she could be your ticket to high elo. As a champion, Kai'Sa has all of the tools that allow her to outplay and 1v5 her enemies, even in the most unlikeliest of games. As an AD carry, you're focused on maximising your farm, securing early kills if you can, and then just getting those items and taking control of the game. On Kai'Sa, you can kite back with your E stealth, your ultimate, and just kill everybody that tries to kill you. With all of the burst, damage, and mobility you have at your disposal, this should be more than enough to get the job done. Vayne. I don't think there'll be a champion that comes close to this one this season, as she's just been so good from start to finish. We're 9 patches into season 12 now, and Vayne is still just as good as she was right at the start at pretty much everything. Yes, she does have those weaknesses of wave clear and AoE damage, but the sheer single target burst and DPS she deals easily makes up for this, alongside her ability to kite and self-peel and kill everything in sight. There's honestly just not much more we need to say about this champion, as we've spoken about her time and time again this season. So if you main AD carry and you aren't playing her yet, why on earth not? Finally, let's take a quick look at support, and in the god tier we have Renata Glask, Sona, Soraka, Nami and Zyra. Xerath also moves up to the S tier and Karma moves down to the B tier. Zilean stays as one of the most underrated and insanely valuable support picks you can go for at the moment. He just offers so much in his kit and provides so many things to help you win games. Those double bombs are amazing at locking down entire teams both aggressively and when peeling. Zilean's E is a very strong ability which feels like a bit of a mini exhaust when used on an enemy, or a crazy boost to his allies' movement speed. Zilean's ultimate is probably one of the best abilities in the game for any support too, as it can easily completely sway teamfights by using it at the right time on the right target. After a few levels and some ability haste, you can spam these abilities and really make use of just how strong they are. If you love offering tons of utility, saving your teammates' lives, setting up fights, and actually dealing some surprising damage too, Zilean is a great pick. Thresh finally got a few buffs after being untouched for such a long time, and unfortunately though, he's still not going to quite cut it in low elo as the buffs aren't that substantial. However, Thresh will always be good if you're good enough to make him work. Thresh's hook can be extremely punishing, and if you know what you're doing, you can completely destroy lanes in the opening 5 minutes. If you aren't that great though, he does get outscaled by so many supports. Sona, Soraka, and all those scaling powerhouses offer so much more to the game in such an easier manner. Thresh requires getting everything absolutely spot on to even stand a chance against these type of champions, but if you do enjoy Thresh, I'm sure you're still playing him, and if you are, keep doing it. I was a Thresh one trick back all the way in Season 4, and I can't explain how much fun I had whilst playing him. Despite him not being as popular and not quite as consistent as other supports, he will always be good in the right hands. Braum is another champion who's been needing some love for a while, and these changes should make a little bit of difference. Braum is just such an awesome champion, and to be honest, I'm all for him making a grand return to the meta. He's just fantastic at disengaging, peeling, and shutting down any attempts on his teammates. His E shield wall completely denies incoming abilities and trades, and his passive is immense even from as early as level 1. If you partner him with a champion who can benefit from this passive and proc it easily, like Lucian for example, you're going to be an extremely difficult lane to deal with. Slowly but surely the enchanters are being nerfed and brought back down to a more balanced level, and as this gradually happens, champions like Braum become more and more viable. Well, that's going to bring us to the end of this patch 12.9 tier list for low elo video. We hope you enjoyed it and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching and take care.